What's up, guys? Rick here with your DFS preview for this week's Bermuda Championship. First off, I'm not in the normal studio getting some work done on the roof. Lots of banging and drilling and loud noises, so I figured move across to another room, try to get away from it. If you hear anything, I apologize. Try to keep the audio as good as possible. Also, hit the like button while you're here. I never ask you to do that, and it costs you nothing. So to me, seems like a pretty fair trade. And finally, I just need to rant here at the top. I hate it. I hate it when we get to weeks like this and you see tweets like, oh, this field is so soft. It's so weak. Should I even play on DraftKings? Should I even make a bet? Ha, ha, ha. Like, yeah, I get it. Somebody's going to win this golf tournament. Somebody is going to be the top DraftKings point scorer. There's going to be a 6-person optimal lineup, and the cash that you can win betting this week or playing on DraftKings is just as green as it is at Augusta National. So I don't, it's just a different problem to solve. And that really grinds my gears when I hear things like that. Very unique golf course that we have here in Bermuda. Lots to talk about. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into it. Here we go. Port Royal Golf Club. This is, believe it or not, at 6,800 yards, par 71, the longest course on the island of Bermuda. Actually had to kind of be lengthened, made more difficult for the pros, but by PGA Tour standards, this is very, very short. The only course on the regular schedule that is shorter than this is Pebble Beach. Now, with the distance or lack thereof, there is going to be an emphasis on shot shaping and playing out of the fairway. Some narrow fairways. You can get into trouble if you are missing the fairway, which is why no surprise that in the first 2 editions of this event, the strongest correlated stat to success, driving accuracy. That's right. I mean, think about who the winners were. Brian Gay and Brendan Todd. I could not have hand-chosen 2 golfers to thrive on courses where accuracy is important, but distance, while always important, is not a prerequisite for success. And of course, this course correlation model that you're seeing on RickRunGood.com, it takes into account more than just the winners. That would be a little bit silly. It actually takes into account every single player in the field, and still driving accuracy is the most strongly correlated stat to success here. It doesn't mean it's the only way you can have success, but it is the highest correlated stat. Also, there were just so many winning tickets in the community last week for Hideki Matsuyama. So big congrats to everyone who had a Hideki ticket. And I did want to point out Kevin Young, who sent me a very, very nice email. He won the $35,000 flop shot. That was, it's the smaller version of the flop shot. He won it for $10,000, and it was a single entry, which is always something I love to see. So congratulations to everybody with their Hideki tickets. Congratulations to Kevin, especially for his victory in the flop shot there. So what I have on RickRunGood.com is, once we've done the statistical model of what is important at this course, you can scroll down and you can see who should fit this course. And to me, there are a couple that really stand out here. I'm using the last 24 rounds. You can use whatever you want. The best course fit is Mito Pereira. I will talk a lot about Mito, so I'll save that for when we get over to the cheat sheet. Guido Migliozzi is second, but he only has 8 rounds. Those 8 rounds that he's played have been very, very good, but remember, he has a small sample size issue. And then here's a couple of names that round out the top 5 or 6. It's Patrick Rogers, it's Seamus Power, it's Brian Stewart. We're going to talk a lot about Seamus Power, but Brian Stewart, I think we can also chat about here as well. There are probably only 4 or 5 courses in which Brian Stewart is not at a significant advantage every year on the PGA Tour. It's basically Pebble Beach, Port Royal, Harbor Town, and that might be it. It might be 3 courses. And this is a really good spot for him. You can see him. He's getting a huge boost because of that accuracy. He is one of, if not the most accurate golfers off the tee on the PGA Tour, but he's very, very short. And most weeks that really puts him behind the 8 ball. This week, it is actually much more valuable for him to be playing out of the short grass as opposed to trying to bomb it with everybody else. So he gets a huge, huge bump here. Mark Hubbard, Hank Lebioda as well, rounding out the top 6 or 7. So we'll talk about these guys, but keep in mind, this is the type of golfer that we are looking for as we go through this and as we transition over to the cheat sheet to see how the pricing has shaken out. Here's the cheat sheet, and if you're liking what you see on RickRunGood.com, you can certainly subscribe, or I have some subscriptions to give away. So last week, the winners, Tom T. and Dylan Kramer. I've gotten in touch with both of you already, so I'll get you set up with your account. If you want to enter a draw to win a subscription to RickRunGood.com, very, very simple to do. You've already liked the video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and comment below with who you think is going to win the Bermuda Championship. That's one way. The other way, go over to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star rating and review on the podcast version of this show. It's called 300 Yards to Unknown. It is linked in the description. That'll also get you entered into a draw, and leave your Twitter handle so I can get in touch with you if you go the Apple Podcasts route. Here we go. The pricing. 5 golfers over $10,000 here. Matt Fitzpatrick, Christian Bezuidenhout, Mito Pereira, Patrick Reed, and Seamus Power. There's a lot to unpack here. Already, just get yourself over the hurdle of paying $10,700 for Christian Bezuidenhout. Get over the hurdle of paying $9,400 for Adam Hadwin, right? These are $3,000 more than we might normally pay for these guys. Take a second. We'll do it right now together. We never have to talk about it again if you just readjust your expectations right now. Okay, cool. I think we're ready to rock and roll here. A couple of items that I think are noteworthy. Matt Fitzpatrick just won last week on the European Tour. Seventh European Tour victory. Has not won on the PGA Tour. Do I think this is a particularly good spot for him? Maybe, maybe not. Christian Bezuidenhout, 10,700, back-to-back top fives at a European Tour event and a Corn Ferry Tour event. My concern with Christian here, is that he is not very accurate off the tee, which I think can get you into a lot of trouble here at Port Royal. And now, not only is he 10,700, which I said I wouldn't mention, but here I am. He's like, 12-1 to win this golf tournament. The shortest that we have seen him, and actually I can pull this up on the Holy Grail here, the shortest odds that we have seen from Bez since I've been tracking this, I think is like 66-1 at the 2021 RBC Heritage, and then he was 33-1 at the Olympics. If he goes out and wins this golf tournament, which is essentially what you're asking him to do for the price that he is at $10,700, if he wins this golf tournament at 12-1, I will tip my cap. I will move on to next week. I have no problem with that. I just don't think it's a particularly great skill fit for him either. So that leaves me heavily focused on Mito Pereira, and there is a heck of a lot to like about the guy. Let me flip over to his Holy Grail here. And what you're going to see is, since he came up at the Rocket Mortgage last year, right? So he gets that 3-win promotion on the Corn Ferry Tour, doesn't play well in his first start. No surprise there. Since then, in the 7 PGA Tour events that he has played since then, he has gained DraftKings points in 6 of them. And in the 6 that he's gained at least 21 DraftKings points on the field. What does that mean? Well, this is a stat that I kind of want to start leaning into a little bit more. We have strokes gained, obviously, but we're playing a fantasy point game. So strokes gained is your score compared to everyone else's score on that day. DraftKings points gained or fantasy points gained, same thing. You take the average for the week. If a guy scored higher than that, he gained on the field. If he scored less than that, he lost points to the field. So it's very, very simple. And what it does is it evens out. So a perfect example was back-to-back weeks at the CJ Cup and the Zozo Championship. I think Sebastian Munoz scored like 96.5 DraftKings points at both of those events. At the CJ Cup, he lost fantasy points to the field because it was such a crazy, ridiculously high scoring event. And he was one of the top scorers at the Zozo Championship. So 96 fantasy points can mean a lot in one situation and very little in another situation. So using this fantasy points gained or this DK points gained column that I have on the tools, it's something I want to lean more and more into. So not only does Mito get the value nod, the fact that he has been one of the better ball strikers on the PGA Tour since he has come up, that is going to travel everywhere. The other thing is, last year, actually, I'm not going to say that stat because I'm going to fact check it real quick. I'm not sure it's true. But look at his ball striking numbers, just gaining a ton of strokes on approach seemingly every single week. When you get to Bermuda, and what can happen here is you can get a lot of wind. Obviously, they're right on the ocean. You can get gusts. That when you start getting windy conditions, and I don't necessarily want to have the wind conversation, the solid ball strikers are the ones that thrive. So not only do you get a guy who's playing well, who's providing a lot of fantasy value, who's a great ball striker, but he's also a winner, right? 4 times in his last 42 starts. All of them have come on the Korn Ferry Tour, but I don't really care, right? I mean, we have Hayden Buckley. We have guys who are in this field that this is kind of like a Korn Ferry Tour event. So I would not be at all surprised to see Mito Pereira play a win here, get his first PGA Tour victory, and that's probably where I'm going to be spending the vast majority of my money at $10,000 or $10,500. The other guy is Seamus Power. Seamus is a really interesting and I think type of golfer that most people just don't realize how good he's been. So if you're trying to pivot off of Mito, switching over to Seamus is, to me, very, very valuable. Let me show you a couple of reasons why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Holy Grail here. I'm on the stats tab, and I'm actually going to remove the filter that says just the Bermuda Championship field. So I'm opening this up to everyone on the PGA Tour. I'm going to go with the last 50 rounds, and I'm just going to go strokes gained total. That is essentially saying who have the best players on the PGA Tour have been in the last 50 rounds for all of them. And it's a who's who of the best players in the world, as it should be. It's Jon Rahm, it's Sam Burns, it's Abraham Ancer, Colin Morikawa, Cam Smith, Louis Oosthuizen, Rory McIlroy. You get it, right? That's the list of golfers that we have here. Seamus Power's 12th on this list. 12th. In the last 50 rounds, Seamus Power has been the 12th best player on the PGA Tour. The other interesting thing about that is of the 12, he is one of, I believe, 5 golfers, by my count, maybe 6, that are hitting at least 62% of their fairways. Again, that is going to be a really important feature for this week. How else does he do it? Ball striking, very good approach player. When I watched him out here in Vegas at the Korn Ferry Tour event, Paiute, the wind howls there. He was just ball striking the heck out of it. The guy hits such a solid golf ball. If we get that same situation in Bermuda again, not going to be an issue for Seamus. So to me, when you consider price, when you consider skill set, when you consider form, when you consider everything, the 2 clear-cut guys in the $10,000 range for me are Mito Pereira and Seamus Power. The $9,000 range. Again, this is where we've got to swallow our pride a little bit. Do we want to spend $9,400 on Adam Hadwin or $9,300 on Danny Willett? Hayden Buckley's here. And a lot of people aren't going to know who Hayden Buckley is and probably not want to pay $9,900 for him. And we have only small history of him coming up from the Korn Ferry Tour and then obviously his strokes gain metrics here on the PGA Tour. And he missed the cut at the Fortinet to start his season. And then he went back-to-back top 10s at both the Sanderson Farms and the Shriners. And look at how he did it, right? Gaining a bunch of strokes off the tee, a bunch of strokes on approach. That's a really good sign. I do worry what his putter is. Right? That's a question I don't think we have an answer for yet. I have 20 rounds on him. 8 of them, he's been an absolutely unbelievable putter. The other 4, he's been pretty horrible, right? So we're going to find out what Hayden Buckley is. If you want to take a little bit of a flyer on him, I don't think he is maybe as solid or consistent or safe as maybe others in the industry might think that he is, but I do think he is a decent flyer. The other one that popped up on the Course Fit tool was Patrick Rodgers. So let's do a little bit of a deep dive on Patrick Rodgers because that's not a name that we spent a lot of time talking about over the last couple of decades. I don't know, years maybe. So here's what we've got. The summer for Patrick Rodgers was very Patrick Rodgers-esque, right? So he goes from Palmetto to Barbasol, where he's just a great driver of the golf ball, no problem there, but he's losing 7 strokes putting and 2 strokes putting and 3 and 2 again. And even when he gains 6.5 at the US Open, it only turns itself into a T31, but he kind of puts an exclamation point on all of it with a T5 at the Barbasol. That's the event that Seamus Power won. That's where he put it together. He was driving it well as he normally does, and then he putted the lights out. Similar kind of style of what he did at the Fortinet. Putts it well, chips it well, hits it okay. Doesn't really hit his approaches all that well, but finishes T6 at the Fortinet. And he snuck a couple of Korn Ferry Tour events in there. So he's been playing basically nonstop, right? He didn't take any time off into this season. And he is, to me, the type of skill set golfer that can get hot. Right? You're going to see a lot of T6s. You're going to see a lot of missed cuts. And I think that is certainly possible this week, especially for, $9,000 for Patrick Rodgers is a little bit of a scary price to kind of throw into your lineup. But I think that he could be, what we would call a slate breaker, right? Someone who, if he finishes T3, a lot of people might have just opted to go down to Guido at 8,700 or paid up for Ramey or Buckley. And I just think Rodgers kind of gets overlooked here. So he might be a guy, and we'll see during the Wednesday live chat how that all shakes out. The other one is Taylor Pendrith. So Pendrith, again, I want to pull up his numbers here because he has been someone that has been so highly regarded for a long time. And there's a good reason, because he's a great driver of the golf ball. I mean, he has only lost strokes off the tee once in the 12, or excuse me. Yeah, well, they're not all measured. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's only lost once off the tee in the 8 measured tournaments that he has on the PGA Tour. The problem is this: he has lost strokes on approach in 7 of 8. That's rare. Usually guys that can hit it well off the tee, usually guys that are good ball strikers with the driver or the 3-wood, can get it done with the rest of their long clubs. We're not seeing that. So this, to me, I'm going to take a more cautious approach on Taylor Pendrith. I know in this range, he's going to garner a lot of attention because of the names that are around him, and nobody's really excited to play anybody, but I'm going to take a more wait and see approach on Pendrith. I'm very, very bullish on him moving forward, but I think for this week, I'm just going to hang tight. I mentioned the live chat on Wednesday. So that's Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. That will be the live chat, all your questions, answers, ownership. There is another live chat on Wednesday evening. That's 8:15 p.m. Eastern time. That's the Jock Market Power Hour. That's stock market DFS. Tons of people are making money over there. You can buy and sell shares of golfers. You can short them. It's kind of an in-game type of thing. It's pretty great. And then there will be a Cut Sweat show this Friday. Time TBD. It'll probably be like, I don't know, 6 p.m. Eastern. Don't quote me on that. There'll be a link in the description. It'll be on, the Rick Run Good YouTube channel. I'll try to time it for the sweatiest of cuts. So that'll be fun. It's a data-driven Cut Sweat show. Haven't had it in a couple weeks because we haven't had a cut show in a couple of weeks. So it'll be a good time. The $8,000 range is one I find that is absolutely fascinating. You've got young guys trying to break through, guys that we see mostly on the Korn Ferry Tour. We've got some more established PGA Tour pros, and we're trying to juggle between which ones we should be rostering, which ones we should be forgetting about. So I'm gonna use a couple of different tools here to kind of see what we can find. So first off, I'm going to go to the Holy Grail. I'm going to get Taylor Pendrith out of here. I'm going to open this up to courses that are 7,000 yards or shorter. Remember, very, very short course here. That is probably the most unique feature of Port Royal, is that it's short and that accuracy really reigns supreme. So I'm just going to sort by strokes gained total. This goes back to the start of 2010. So over a decade's worth for almost every single golfer in the field. It's probably their entire career. And I'm just going to look for golfers that are in the $8,000 range. Well, Guido's number 1, but he only has 4 rounds. He's $8,700. That is the T13 that he had at the Travelers Championship. Only those 4 rounds. The next guy in the $8,000 range, it's Denny McCarthy, which kind of makes sense, right? Denny's not going to blow you away off the tee, and especially with distance, but sometimes he can win these, or maybe not win, but play well in these events that are shorter. He hits shorter clubs into greens. He gets to focus on the putter a bit more. So Denny McCarthy gaining about a half a stroke per round on courses that are 7,000 yards or shorter. There's really not that many $8,000 golfers here. Steven Yeager is next. He only has 19 rounds because he just obviously just earned his tour card coming up from the Korn Ferry last year, but all of his rounds are from 2019 and previous. So I don't even know how much you want to dive into this for Steven Yeager. His last round on a course that is 7,000 yards or shorter would have been June 20th of 2019. So I'm not sure we even want to go there. And then Scott Stallings, Scott Stallings is one of the best or he's played the most rounds, of guys that are kind of in this price range, are on courses that are 7,000 yards or shorter. And again, you kind of look at some of his results. T26 at Bermuda, T6 at the Travelers, 3rd at Pebble Beach, 7th at Pebble Beach, 3rd at Barbasol. So it's really not just one course that's really driving a lot of this, which is good to see. So Scott Stallings can really lean into the ball striking, can lean into hopefully finding a good putting week, and these courses are not certainly going to overpower him. That's one way to do this. The other way I want to do this is I want to go to I'm going to stay on the Holy Grail, and I want to go to stats. and I want to load in just this field. And I want to go really recent here. I want to go 12 rounds because what I'm trying to find are golfers that are playing really well right now. And this is important because a lot of the guys that are coming up from the Korn Ferry or I mean, they're PGA Tour pros now. Guys who played last year on the Korn Ferry Tour, they might only have 12 rounds, right? They might have played 3, maybe 4. They probably wouldn't have played 4 events because they probably didn't play CJ Cup. They probably didn't play Zozo. So you probably have like 3 events. Fortinet, Sanderson, Shriner. So 12 rounds. That's what I'm going with here, kind of giving a level playing field and looking for guys in the $8,000 range. First one, Sahith Tagala. He's back. The putter is scary. The fact that he only hits 54% of his fairways is scary, but he's here. David Lipsky would be the next guy in the $8,000 range. He is scary for a lot of other reasons. He actually does hit a lot of fairways. His approach game is not as strong, but again, this is only 12 rounds, so there is a little bit of stuff that we can work with here. But really, this 8K range might be a dead zone. Notice how many golfers in the $7,000 range are showing up before we find golfers in the $8,000 range. So to me, this is more of a flyer range. I think Stallings is somewhat interesting. I think that Jaeger is kind of interesting. I think that Lipsky is kind of interesting. Garrick Higgo, believe it or not, he's been bad, right? He's just been objectively bad. Is he the most overpriced golfer in this slate, which I'm sure is I'm certain that's not going to come back to bite me here. But let's look up Higgo and make sure that I have all my other filters cleared out of here because I just want to see all of what Higgo's been up to. And yeah, here was the win. So the win at Palmetto. After that, I mean, he's a losing player, right? I mean, almost significantly. So that would have been, so if I go June 20th, so 6/20/2021, Higgo's losing a stroke per round since his win. It's horrendous. It's probably the worst in the field. I'm deep down this Higgo rabbit hole now. So wow, there's a lot of bad players in this field. Okay, so here's Higgo. He has, yes, since his win, no golfer with as many rounds as him has lost as many strokes per round as him, if that makes sense. Martin Trainer, Michael Kim, both have struggled. They have 5 fewer rounds than Higgo. But wow, flipping a switch since the victory in the wrong direction. $7,000 range. Fascinating. I find this to be the most interesting of ranges because right at the top you have Mark Hubbard. If you go to... This is the trends tool, which is a tool I should show more often. It's one that I really, really like. There is a section called breakout candidates, which essentially says who's hitting it well from tee to green and putting below their own personal baseline, calling it unlucky. And one of the guys that looks prime to break out would be Mark Hubbard, along with Mito Pereira and Kramer Hickok and David Lipsky and Dylan Wu. Those are probably the top 5 that are breakout candidates, meaning if they just putt to their own personal average, some of these guys are better putters than others, then they would see a significant progression. So that's where this $7,000 range starts. It also includes Russell Knox, which a lot of different ways you slice this, Russell Knox is going to show up. Unfortunately, his recent form hasn't been as good as I would like to see it, but Russell Knox on courses that are 7,000 yards or shorter, Russell Knox on courses that are maybe fairway finders, Russell Knox at this course specifically, right? Finished 16th and 11th in the last 2 years. And if you go and look at, his profile page, and you can see, maybe I'm giving a spoiler of where we might be going next here. Russell Knox, he's just unbelievable with his irons and his wedges. I mean, just gaining strokes consistently week in and week out. The putter is a mystery, seemingly to us and to him. He's just as likely to gain 2.5 as he is to lose 5. But again, if this turns into a windy conditions and ball strikers prevail, Knox is here. The other one would be, and you saw it, I already had him loaded up, Matthew Neesmith. Similar situation. Great ball striker. In fact, one of the better approach players on tour. We talked about that last week, I believe. And a very, very poor putter. Putted better at the Shriners. We don't have the breakdown information from the Zozo Championship, but that's okay. We can probably assume that he lost. And Bermuda greens, which is what we have this week, believe it or not, in Bermuda, is it's not his worst surface, right? I mean, he's still a small loser on it, but he's much worse on Bent and Poa combination. So if we can get a 0 putting week out of Matthew Neesmith, maybe he can contend this week. But there's a lot of other names that I might be interested in here. You know, Hank Lebioda, unfortunately, has not been the same golfer that we saw when he was piling up top 10s. He has a 3rd place finish and a 16th place finish here if you're kind of desperate. Even Kirat Afi Barnrat, if you're looking at his PGA Tour results, they're not going to look as good as his kind of worldwide golf results, right? Because he had that really good finish on the European Tour a couple of weeks ago. He finished 11th here last year. So there's just some interesting names. And Brian Stewart, who we already talked about, is here as well. Brian Stewart's $7,100. He's missed 4 cuts in a row. But if there was ever a place to play Brian Stewart, it's where you get rewarded for fairways. You don't have to be long. That's the name of the game for old Brian Stewart. The $6,000 range is massive, and it is constantly changing. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention on Twitter, but the withdrawals are coming hot and heavy here. A lot of guys getting, maybe issues getting to Bermuda, but we've had 11 field changes already. There's been withdrawals. There are some guys listed in here that have already withdrawn. So this is going to constantly change for the next day or two. So keep an eye out for it. Couple of notables. Michael Gligic, who finished 11th here last year, I think is better than a lot of his peers in this price range. I will also point out Dylan Wu. If you remember back to the course key stats tool, he was one of the guys that got the one of the biggest boosts here, I believe. Let me just double check that. Course fit. I think I did 50 rounds previously. Maybe not. Where did Dylan Wu pop up? Oh, breakout candidates. My bad. That's what I was thinking of. That's where Dylan Wu popped up, not the course fit. Breakout candidates. So he would be a name. So the bottom of this, most weeks I'm kind of a stars and scrubsy kind of guy. And there are obviously going to be a lot of these guys that make the cut. I don't, just because of how the numbers have to work out, I don't know if this is necessarily a great week for stars and scrubs, because these guys, and a lot of these guys, have no chance of winning this golf tournament. I mean, no offense to Olin Brown. I thought he retired. No, so I'm sorry. I don't know. I think he's old. Let me check. He's 62 years old. I mean, I wasn't kidding. So I think you have to be really careful here. If you're going to play someone in the $6,000 range, I think you've got to see any signs of life. Even Two Gloves Tommy, he's still playing on the Korn Ferry. He's still out there competing. Brett Druitt, again, out there competing. Some of these guys are teeing it up for the first time in who the heck knows how long, right? And how long they've been competitive. So you have to be really, really careful here in the $6,000 range. And that's certainly a tier that we can cover a lot on the Wednesday live show, because I don't think you want to go too low here. 6,500 might be, or 64 might be the lowest I want to go. Let's make a model. I'm going to get you out of here. Here's where I'm at. Custom model, RickRunGood.com. Let's just go really recent. 12 rounds. I think that's going to help us level the playing field a little bit with the KFT guys, with some of the guys who are more frequent players on the PGA Tour. So let's go 12 rounds. We've got to put a heavy emphasis on accuracy, right? We've got to go 35 on accuracy and 15 on distance. So we have really weighed a lot of off the tee, a lot. And then we're also going to put 25 on approach. We got to go a lot. That leaves us with with 25, birdie or better. That's got to be the path here. We're talking about fantasy scoring. We're talking about playing out of the fairway. We're getting ball strikers in case this thing turns into a windy mess. I think this is the path we have to go. And the good news is you can run whatever model that you want. So my number one golfer is Mito Pereira. Come on. Of course it is. I'm just going to bet the mortgage on this guy. Austin Eckroat is number 2. Interesting. Again, when you go really, really short like this, you're going to get some names that we're going to have to do homework on. Austin Eckroat is number 2 for me. Chad Ramey is number 3. He's played well recently to start the year. Davis Riley, 4. Hayden Buckley, 5. Okay, let me stop there. Pereira, Eckroat, Ramey, Riley, Buckley. How many of those golfers could your dad name? The answer is none. And I think that's good, right? Like, here we are in a week where research and data and knowing these golfers better than everybody else is valuable. And we're seeing it right here in the model that I ran. The rest of my top 10, Bo Hoag, Seth Reeves, Adam Hadwin, Lee Hodges, and Seamus Power. I've got homework to do, but that is my first run at this custom model. Oh, I think Oliver's about to bark. He was good for so long. He's not. So yeah, this is going to be fun. Lots of research to do, lots of content coming the rest of the way. But for now, go ahead, subscribe to RickRunGood.com. Don't be afraid. You can tweet me at RickRunGood. You can leave a comment below and go pet your dogs. I'm going to go pet Oliver. See ya.